So here we are. In this little set of interviews that we're carrying out, we're trying to give our audience, our client base, more information about what goes on behind the scenes with IASeminars to get the courses to our clients. Helen, I obviously know what you do, but everybody out there doesn't. So can we start if I ask you to introduce yourself, your name and your position within the business? That'd be great.
I'm Helen Gallen, and I'm the Chief Customer Officer for IASeminars.
And I think a lot of people have a lot of contact with you throughout the year. Is that right? Yes.
So I'm part of the frontline team dealing with inquiries, repeat customers, staying in touch with customers. So yes, my colleagues will tell you I'm difficult to get hold of because I put customers first.
Oh, fantastic. So if someone makes an inquiry through the website, or if someone makes a phone call into the business, invariably they're going to be speaking to you.
And myself and the team, so Donna as well, in particular, yes.
Who will be speaking to at another time. And so Helen, how long have you been with the business?
It's a little over 14 years now, so not
14 years. So another 14-year-old, not 14-year-old, but another 14 years person within the business. Anita also, more or less, I think the same. So has your role always been the same during that 14 years?
Yes, I think of all the team who've come in and evolved their roles, mine stayed more static because I came in as then Assistant Customer Services Manager.
Right.
And now Chief Customer Officer.
You're the Chief, yeah. So do you, bearing in mind what you've said, do you see any significant changes to what you need to do, or to how the business has basically changed in that period of time?
I think so, yes, because coming in 2008, the company was enjoying some fantastic growth. IFRS was being adopted by a lot of countries around the world, and the US was making moves in that direction. So we were incredibly busy serving customers across Europe and North America at the time. And then, of course, the financial crash happened, and the US pulled back from IFRS, and a lot of things changed. And that's, I think, the beauty of IASeminars, is that as things evolve in the world that affect our clients and their profession, we've been able to evolve with them and shape our business to reflect their demands, their needs. So we're always listening to the clients and evolving our products accordingly.
And one of the things that came across from some of the interviews so far is the way that COVID has had an impact on that. So from your perspective, how big a deal was that?
And that was huge. That was bigger than the crash.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely, because we were a business which was, at that point, I would say 90% reliant on international travel, on hospitality venues hosting our events. Suddenly, none of that was possible. Plus the financial constraints on businesses around the world due to the COVID restrictions. So, people had no budget and no ability to travel, and we had to pivot, as quickly as practicable.
Right.
To doing these things, doing Zoom
absolutely
meetings with clients, and it was quite incredible that within a few months we managed to pivot and offer training for those who still wanted training and needed training. A lot of our training is needs-based, not just nice to have, but need to have. For compliance. So we were still serving the customers. Just a few months later, we were a Zoom business. And 2022 is really exciting, because now we're keeping the Zoom training, but we're bringing back face-to-face as well. So we've got both options available for people.
And that's interesting. While you were talking, I was thinking, about going forward, and quite clearly you've stated that the Zoom, the online, the virtual is here to stay, running in line as well with the in-person training. Also going forward, I mean, interesting you mentioned about compliance, which of course is we don't tend to always think that at the end of the day there is a something there that is causing, we need to have this constant training. Going forward, how do you see, I suppose, with the advent of ESG, how do you see that changing in terms of the compliance requirements of our clients?
So at the moment with ESG, people are exploring, and they know there's something big around the corner.
Right.
And they're not quite sure what that looks like. So we do have quite introductory courses that are, literally a toe in the water. What is E? What is S? What is G? To get to know, well, how do I plan forward? And then we've got the more detailed courses for those who, right, okay, I've taken that first step. Now I know where we're going. We need to explore the frameworks and see what might be compulsory. I think those who wait until it's compulsory, it's going to be like some organizations and countries were with IFRS. They were on the back foot. Suddenly the deadline was around the corner, and it was panic.
Bang.
Whereas I think this time, hopefully, lessons are learned from that, and for new reporting frameworks that people will take a slower approach and build to it.
And with that in mind, Helen, your position is the front line with Donna and the team, the customer-facing side of the business. Presumably, then you are getting more and more calls about, I'm hear about it, I'm unsure what to do. What do you think I should do? Is that right?
Yes, the inquiries tend to be just, I need ESG training, and then
I need it now.
What does that look like?
Right, okay.
What stage is that? What role are you in your company?
Right.
And then we can work on, well, you come in at this point and maybe you go there next.
And you're not an accountant.
I'm not, no.
But it's interesting. I mean, it must be interesting. Being with the business for 14 years, and seeing how, like you mentioned about the financial crisis, the potential convergence, or the FASB taking the standards, the ISB standards, and then not really doing that. You must, you're seeing a lot of interesting things about the financial reporting world. To me, it sounds really interesting. What you're doing.
I mean, it's been a fascinating period of time, and new partners and stakeholders. When we explain to them, these world events that have impact on our business, and we're used to seeing some of these things, in our 10 o'clock news.
Yes.
But we are seeing the effect, on the ground, with our business, and seeing how the accounting profession has had to cope and change the rules to stop some of these crises or limit them in future.
Sorry, Helen. Sorry.
No, it is fascinating.
Yeah. And do you think then that ESG or sustainability reporting, whatever we want to call it, do you think that is going to be a bigger deal than, let's say, the advent of the big four standards, the IFRS 9 and the IFRS 15 and 16, that what were in the pipeline from the ISB for many years? Do you actually see that as not as significant as going forward?
I think this time it's far-reaching, because these standards, IFRS, from our little focus from our side, it was purely an accounting process. It was accountants who were seeing on courses. It was the annual reports that needed to be compliant. This time, the standards are going to impact how businesses are run and how they operate, what materials they use, what staff they employ, how they treat those staff. So there are massive, far-reaching.
A lot wider.
So what we are seeing now on our introductory course, for example, is that the accountants are almost in the minority in the attendees, because we're seeing operations directors, we're seeing strategists, and people in HR who are interested in this, because it really is wider, it's so much wider than what the people in the accounts department are having to deal with.
Right, okay, so the audience is going to become a lot wider, a lot different. Interesting times. Really interesting. So always one of the last questions I've asked so far, Helen, on a sort of more personal note, if you will, is do you have an interesting fact about yourself that you'd quite like to share with everybody?
I suppose currently, so since COVID, I think everyone's used to people remote working. And I've always been a remote worker for my whole 14 years for IASeminars, working from home. But after COVID, now that travel is more encouraged and allowed, I'm living a bit of a more nomadic existence, and I'm house sitting. So this is not my house.
So you're house sitting now,
I'm sitting in somebody else's home, looking after their pet cats while they're away.
So that must be really interesting then. So you're seeing all different types of house, all people's
stepping into different people's lives for a couple of weeks.
And I always say accountants need to be nosy. Does that mean that you can be a little bit nosy as you're going around? Oh, that's really interesting. And you see where they've been on their travels and that, presumably?
Yeah, well, there was a TV program in the UK, and their catchphrase, I think, was "Who lives in a house like
through
this?"
the keyhole.
And the clues are there.
And so you're Detective Helen Gallen.
So we've had a bit of a giggle on some of the Zoom calls where we're saying, well, you know, what does this say about the owner of this house?
So you're in Edinburgh, I think now. Where does the next house sit take you then?
Probably back here, to be honest. I've done a fair bit in Edinburgh, but I am looking at France and Spain for next year.
Wow. Wow, fantastic. Well, I think we'll have to do a revisit then once you've been to France and Spain and see what the difference is. I bet there are big differences. Helen, thank you so much. How interesting, superb. And as I say at the end of every video, happy birthday, happy 20th birthday, IASeminars.
Absolutely, big celebration.
And here's to the next 20 years.
Indeed.
Thanks, Helen. All the best.
Thank you, Rob.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.